Well, back with us once again to discuss the latest developments are three MPs who are the key spokespeople for their parties on the Canadian mission. James Bezan is the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Defence. Paul Dewar is the Foreign Affairs Critic for the NDP. Marc Garneau is the Foreign Affairs Critic for the Liberal Party. Good to see you all again, gentlemen. On another day where we move this story a little bit ahead, day by day. Mr. Bezan, what can you tell us about when Canadians will get a decision on what combat role Canada might play in Iraq?
Well, Cabinet is considering all options right now. They've had some discussions and briefings and are looking at our capabilities as well as what role that we can play as being interoperable with other allies. So we will work closely in collaboration with the United States and others, as well as keep the House informed on our progress and how we want to move forward.
Okay, but is there any doubt at this point that the Prime Minister will be proposing a combat mission?
What we've said is that if it becomes a combat mission, it'll be a confidence motion brought before the House of Commons for a vote.
Yeah, but today in the House,
and I don't think that option is definitely one of the things that we're looking at. One option that we aren't looking at is sitting idly by or sitting on our hands and not doing anything.
The Prime Minister made that clear today, but he also made clear. He said. The Prime Minister said in the House today, in question period, that a proposal would be coming forward for debate and a vote in the next few days. So isn't that clear the government will propose a combat mission?
Well, I think that just reading a little bit into it, he also said that, right now it is non-combat, and we are looking at all the options, and we have to be serious about that.
But if he's moving forward with something that's non-combat, there wouldn't be a debate and vote in the House.
Well, I'm not going to speculate on what the final decision is going to be from Cabinet and, or what role we're going to be playing in the future, but we will continue to play a role there. We do believe that this is a serious threat, not only to the people that live in Iraq and Syria who are experiencing a genocide at the hands of ISIL and these terrible terrorists, but we know that this has the potential to come right back here to Canada, and we have to be prepared to deal with that, both at home and abroad.
Mr. Dewar, does it seem clear to you that the decision's been made to have a combat mission? It's just the question now is when to tell the Canadian public, Parliament, and have that debate and vote.
Well, as I've said before in your program, we saw this coming long ago, and that's why we insisted early on to have a debate and a vote. There's so many problems with the plan that we've seen from the Prime Minister on the present plan. We're trying to get from the government how many people are actually on the ground, and that's still ambiguous. What they were doing, and by the way, it was on September 5th that the Prime Minister announced that there would be a military mission, i.e. we're sending soldiers over to assist, and they're soldiers, and there are two, we hear you, to assist and advise, and that then we were told that over that period we'd assess and decide what to do next. Well, now we've seemed to be leaping right into a combat without any reporting to Parliament about exactly what these people were doing, what the criteria was with regards to the mission, and then to say, okay, based on this assessment, based on what they were doing, we are recommending the following. It seems, and it's pretty clear, we're going to leap right into a combat mission that will mean we'll have fighter jets in action.
Okay, Mark.
And at the same time, and the last thing is, we're not acting on the saving lives with humanitarian assistance that we said we would do, and that's unfortunate.
Well, okay, Marc Garneau, let's bring you into the conversation here. Do you believe you heard the Prime Minister suggest today that it's a combat mission? It's just a question of when we all get told that.
Yes, I think the Prime Minister telegraphed it very clearly today. I think in the coming days, possibly this week, if not early next week, we're going to be presented with a motion for debate that will establish what the government proposes to do in terms of enlarging our military mission, and that there's a very high probability it's going to include CF-18s.
Okay, it's pretty clear the New Democrats will be voting against a combat mission when we get a debate and a vote in the House. What's the Liberal Party going to do?
We want to see what this resolution or this motion is. It's got to be crystal clear. Will it be talking about Iraq and Syria? Will it have rules of engagement? That ISIS is now no longer coming out in the open as easily as before because of the strike aircraft that are around. If they stay closer to the villages and the towns, what will be the rules of engagement if any Canadian aircraft were involved? Because certainly we don't want to be involved in collateral damage, if I can put it that way.
Right,
those are important questions.
Okay, but so in principle, you support or don't support airstrikes?
Tomorrow we are meeting in our caucus. We will decide in our caucus what our position will be with respect to what we think could be the different scenarios.
Okay. So going into that caucus meeting, is it your position that possibly airstrikes, depending on the details of the mission, or no airstrikes?
Well, as I say, we'll have a discussion in our caucus, and we will look at the different scenarios. And of course, as I said, the motion that the government will come forward with, we're pretty sure they will come forward, will have to be very, very clear in terms of what it is specifically proposing. We are concerned about lack of definition. We're concerned about mission creep and things like that.
Okay, I think the other key thing that we heard in the House of Commons today, there were lots of questions, Mr. Bezan. Let me shift to you here. Tom Mulcair, I think, asked 17 of them on this, and Mr. Trudeau asked a number as well. And one of the other key things that came out, I think, to move this story forward was when the Prime Minister was asked about an exit strategy today. And he told the House he will not leave Canadian forces in a quagmire in Iraq for years. But I guess the question becomes, once you're in the combat mission, how easy is it to get out?
I guess, we've all had the experience of Afghanistan and watched what happened in Iraq with the United States and its coalition partners, and they're still trying to get out of Iraq, and now it's morphed into a whole different battle. So, we are concerned about having any type of fatigue enter in if we extend missions and goes on indefinitely. So, I look at Libya. That was a quick in and out, and we were able to accomplish a lot. And, so hopefully there will be some decisions made along with our allies, along with the Iraqi government and the Peshmerga on trying to get this thing to an end game. But ultimately, we have a situation on the ground in Iraq that allows ISIL to have large control of a lot of resources, a lot of area, a place to train, a place to launch attacks from, not only against innocent civilians, but more importantly, bring it back here home. And what the interesting thing is...
Really quick, please. We're short on time. Go ahead.
The other thing here is that, we are committed to addressing this issue head on. What we're hearing from the NDP is they're splitting hairs, and the Liberals last week actually flip-flopped on this. They weren't going to support airstrikes, and now they're saying they'll consider it. So when we bring the clarity forward with the final decision,
right. Mr. Doerr,
the government, the cabinet has to make the decisions, and once they do, we'll know exactly where we're headed.
Mr. Doerr, what about this issue around an exit strategy?
Well, if there's no real clear mandate and there's no real end date, we're really worried about being pulled into a quagmire, as the Prime Minister said himself. So it's after we've seen this government not be clear about the original mission we've been involved in, about how many soldiers, what they're doing there, how it's going to be evaluated. Why would we trust this government now to go into a combat mission with, when they haven't been clear at the front end? So we should have, and I say this again, emphatically, we should have been saving lives right now by sending the humanitarian support on the ground.
We are.
There are 60. Yes. No, you aren't. You actually have sent and pledged some money. The renewal money that we were asked to send has not been invested yet. And the questions I asked Minister Baird about further humanitarian support, protecting those who are minorities, giving support for those
what about this? So
none of that has been done. None. Zero.
How bad would the situation have to get in Iraq and the threat from ISIL have to be, the Islamic State have to be, for New Democrats to say, okay, let's do airstrikes?
Well, if that was the only thing we had to do, then we'd look at that. But that's not the only thing we have to do. And that's what is so frustrating. There's over 60 countries part of this coalition. We are very supportive of the coalition dealing with it. It's a question of not if we do something. It's about what we do and do it effectively. And Canadians want to see us help on the humanitarian side.
Mr. Garneau, what about a response to the Prime Minister's point that, if when Canada's called upon to do its part, and in this case it seems to be airstrikes, that Canada doesn't sit on the sidelines? Do you agree with that statement, and that airstrikes is the natural response to that when we're called upon to help?
We have said since the beginning that we need to do more on the humanitarian front, and we've also signaled in the Liberal Party that we also need to do more than that. What exactly we do is another matter. That depends on what the government is going to propose. We'll look at it and decide. And by the way, on the question of exit strategies, everybody wants to have an exit strategy. There's really two outcomes to these things. One is, hey, the job is done, time to exit and all go home. The other is, no, it's not going well at all. In fact, it's really getting bad. And then you have an optics problem, because if you say, sorry, we're getting out of this, this is an unwinnable situation, that's not nearly as neat and tidy as the first option. So,
which option do you think we're headed for in Iraq?
I think that we're going to have an extended, and I think that has to weigh into our thinking on this. This is, I think, going to be still a very much present issue at the next Canadian election. Okay.
Well, again, the next thing we wait for, gentlemen, now is the cabinet decision made public, the debate in Parliament, and a vote on whatever the next phase of the mission will be. And speaking of that, our viewers can hear the bells ringing, and you're being called to a vote on another matter in the House of Commons. So we'll certainly let you get on your way to that, and thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Pleasure.